Hello and welcome to this, our second episode of our Season of Knowledge Mobility session. In this session we'll be talking to you about Anveo. Anveo is one of the more common nav add-ins for mobility. It comes to you as an iOS or Android application and offers out-of-the-box mobile sales and mobile service applications. It combines some CRM features and functions and comes complete with a nav-based customization tool for developing additional functions. We will see how that is done later in the add-in. As with some of the other products we've seen so far, because these are native applications that run on the devices concerned, they make use of the capabilities of the clients, such as email, maps, and barcode reading in some instances using the device camera. Anveo offers an offline capability where all the actions that you do take place on the device itself. These are then synced back to the main nav server using a web service process to transfer the data as and when is needed. Architecturally, the application comes in a number of parts. You have the client application that runs on the device, be it an Android or an iOS device such as an iPad. Then you have an Anveo server. An Anveo server is a staging server where data is held for the application to use. This then pulls or talks to Dynamics web services through a firewall, which in turn then talks to your nav database. There is a second piece of technology called a Delta server, which is installed inside your firewall on your servers. The purpose of the Delta server is to work out which data is needed to be sent to which client. The idea being that if you can set the minimum amount of data that needs to be sent to and from the clients, the transfer time and data footprint is much smaller. The Delta server works on a change tracking mechanism in conjunction with some synchronization packages we'll see later, which define which subsets of data get sent to and from the client device via the web services and Anveo server. As mentioned in the intro, Anveo uses an offline caching mode. What this means is that every action that you take place on the device is recorded in a macro-like way and then played back in Dynamics to recreate the transactions that you have carried out on the device. It makes use of temporary number series to allow you to create sales orders remotely offline and then sync them back later. In this instance, the order numbers that you may create are then updated with the real numbers in NAV once the processing has taken place. In terms of users connecting to Anveo, these are a subsidiary set of users defined in tables of NAV. They are not your standard domain logins. Therefore, you can map individual users with certain rights into Dynamics NAV as opposed to using your standard users. In terms of design and functionality of the application, this is configured almost entirely within NAV. Within NAV, you have a set of setup tables and customizations where you can define both features and functions that appear in the client. This enables you, should you wish, to either use the standard tables, features, functions and pages, or to create your own custom functionality and deploy them to the client. In addition to the page design tools that are available, there is also a small lightweight scripting language that is available to use on the client. This enables developers and IT admins to create small sets of logic that may want to be deployed when the operator is using the device. For example, when a sales order is being created, we may want locally to have a check for something like an order reference number before placing the order, something we might not care about when we're doing this directly in NAV. We are now going to take a quick tour of the Anveo client. In this example, we will show you some standard sales order processing type functionality, and in addition we'll show you the capability to use some custom screens we have created for this demo. For this purpose we have created a simple visit report functionality which allows a user on the device to just record that they have been to see a customer. A simple set of data with a customer lookup, an employee lookup, and some simple date and text fields. Here we have the view the user has when they start the application on an iOS device. In this screen, down the left hand side, there are a number of menus. In these menus, pages can be pressed and created. The content of these menus is definable in NAV in a menu setup in the back end. In addition, the number of menu items that are visible when the user logs in is controlled by a permission set and some categories and catalogs, which we'll look at later. This enables you to create different roles for different people to get different sets of functionality within the client. When the user is logged in, it is presented with this screen. In the top right hand corner there are two buttons. The top right hand one is a context sensitive menu button. This allows you to select features and functions to carry out at the time, depending on which action you're already using in this device. A synchronization run allows you to synchronize data between your device and the Anveo server, thus updating both areas of the system. The other button on the top right hand corner is the synchronization button. This, as mentioned, allows you to sync. Pressing this will send all your data back to NAV, and then if there are any updates to come back, we'll bring those back and store them locally in the device. As mentioned, down the left hand side is a list of categories in the form of a menu. The colours and icons you see are configurable within the back end to suit your particular tastes. If I hit the My Customers button, this is then bringing a list of customers that are assigned to me. In this screen, in the top corners, there are a number of buttons. There is a filtering button. Here I can use specific filters to look for customers. As you can see, typing Canon in here filters the Canon group. I also, using this sort button, can sort by name or number. These are definable back in the back office. Pressing a top menu button here allows me to perform an action. In this single screen, the one defined action in this menu is new customer. However, if I to pick a different customer and then press and hold for the long press button, I can see a bigger menu which has been created. From here I can create a new quote, order, or any particular form of documentation that has been defined for me. In terms of documents, when I press the My Documents button, you can see a sub-menu appears. And again, I can flick through this sub-menu to get to something like sales orders. I have the option of single menu or multiple menu activities. In addition to the standard flyout menu showing text, you have the capability to add imagery to the application. This is a list of images which have been applied inside NAV to the item record using the picture import. So you have a visual tool for finding and displaying items. So at this stage I'm going to create a sales order. So I shall go to my customer list and pick our friends the Canon group. And by pressing and holding, I can then select the customer's information on a short tab. Here I have a list or multi-page form which looks similar in design and concept to the customer card in NAV. Down the bottom of the screen you'll see a number of dots. That indicates there are more screens here, so I can swipe from one to the other. As you can see, there's a communication tab. If I press the email button, up pops an email created using the device capabilities. If I had a phone, I could use the phone number to dial the customer. As you can see, some screens are editable, denoted by the icon for the pen/pencil. Pressing the map icon brings up a nice map showing the location of the customer based on their postcodes. So press the menu button at the top, press new order, creates me a new order. As you'll notice, in the top right hand corner at this stage, the synchronization icon has now updated to indicate that a number of actions have taken place which need synchronizing with NAV to make these up to date. In addition, the external document number field is now in pink. This has been controlled by the setting that we talked about earlier, where you can create local logic in a scripting language. We are asking here for the external document number to be filled in, and the scripting language is using that to check if it has been filled in. If not, it is putting the background pink. Here I can now add an item by pressing add item. Here's my sales order line. I can look up an item. Again, I have some filtering capabilities. I'm going to pick my red touring bicycle. I can then add another item, and by looking up multiple items or typing in, I can add more and more items to the sales order. If I use the show lines button, you can see I have 2 lines here on this order. I can then submit this should I wish to. In addition, I could ask the user to sign this, as well as the external document number. Now this order is currently filled in with a temporary sales order number. When this gets synchronized back to NAV, this will be updated with a normal number series customer number. As you can see, as we try and exit this document, the external document number check has been fired. We're going to say no, and we will type in I'm now back at my screen. At this point I could press the synchronization button and this will go backwards and forwards to NAV. So here we see the update is gone. That is then processed by NAV. In a very short period of time we get an update back from the system saying that has been updated. In addition to the standard sales order processing, we are now just going to show you a very quick demo of an additional visit report document that we have created. What we have done is, in NAV we have created a very simple table to hold a number of fields, a customer number and a couple of references, and then we have created in Anveo in the back end a record in the setup database which publishes that table and pages as a UI element here in the application. If I press the custom views, you can see very briefly in this grey colour a number of documents. We are going to use this visit report list. Here is a list of the visit reports that we have created. We can now go and create a new visit report using our custom menu we created earlier. The number series has already been filled in. I can very easily press the customer lookup. I can use all the features of the filtering that we talked of before. So let's just pick our friend's Antarctic copy. I can say what date did this take place at, which employee use it. So let's take our friend Anveo. A very simple text messages. And there, that is now been stored locally here. As you can see, the icon at the top right hand corner says there are changes to be synchronized. We could leave these in here for as long as we like, or we could go off and have them synchronized immediately. As you can see, the data has been sent, received, brought back and updated. At this stage, before we look at the back end of NAV, I'd just like to show you very briefly the Android client. So here we have on the screen both clients. The left hand side is the iPad iOS client and the right hand side is the Android phone client or tablet client. You may notice quite a few differences between the two applications, although the look and feel is different in both. The concept of layout, design and functionality is the same. So here I can scroll down to the visit report functionality, and here is a list of visit reports that took place that have been sent to the system. So fundamentally a choice of two different clients offering the same functionality. I'd now like to show you how the integration between Anveo and the clients work by running through some of the setups in NAV. As with all NAV add-ins in the mobility area that we're going to be looking at, there is a footprint in the database caused by objects and setups that are loaded into the database. In the case of Anveo, there is an Anveo client suite menu. This defines things like pages, users, menus, synchronization packages, as long as some setup. In this example, we're going to have a brief look at things like users and pages, and then we're going to just talk about how these things interact with each other. So, fundamentally, to access Anveo, you need to create a user. A user has various properties which can define things such as their username and passwords, along with the relation to what they are in the database when they log in. You will notice that these are not Dynamics NAV users per se, but are aliases for users in the database. So this person here could log in as a employee, customer, vendor or a contact, and then based on the categories and menus that they have access to, create different tasks. Each user can be assigned a menu. So here we have a menu that says when this person logs in, they are assigned the sales menu. Users in the database also have the concept of roles and permissions. So here I can see that this user has been assigned the role of super in this particular company. This allows us to give access to certain tables and data based on what they actually need to do. You can define for the user which company they actually default when they act and access this, And there are also some settings that say if this user has multiple devices, what should it do? Should you just warn the user? Should you reject his connection, or should you delete the device that's last used and then to have to reset it when they go in the next time? In the top menu here, we can also see, in terms of mobile devices that the user has actually operated, we can see here the number of devices that have been activated based on this user, including the model and the operating system. We can also see what tasks have been sent backwards and forwards in terms of synchronization for the user. So from a troubleshooting point of view, you can see here if there's any issues, what they were and how you can resolve them. In terms of the synchronization of data, there is a thing called a synchronization package. A synchronization package is a collection of fields in tables which are then distributed to the client device. As mentioned, when a user logs into the system, they are given access to a menu. Here we have a list of menus defined in the back end which the user can access. There is a default menu, and if we have a look at this, we can see what is contained within it. So here is the menu structure for the sales menu that we saw earlier. As you can see, in the bottom here we have this customs views section which we showed you earlier, and in here is a visit report list. Also, we talked about multiple menus within menus. Here you can see in the documents I have quotes, orders and history, so you can have stepped menus within each one. Against each individual menu item, I can define the icon and some color schemes and some background colors. This allows you to personalize the menus to suit. Next, we come to synchronization packages. A synchronization package defines which data is sent to the client. So here we have a synchronization menu called sales tables. In his sales tables, we can define which tables we are actually sending to the device. So here we are sending the customer table, CRM log entry, appointment, contact, sales header, sales lines. Within each one, we can then select which individual fields we want to send. So here we can see we're sending a subset of the contact table, whereas in the customer we are sending a subset of the customer table. Notice we don't send all the flow fields with the flow filters and some of the calculated fields, etc., that we may see on the table if you were to go and design the table or run the standard page that has all the fields available on it. In conjunction with the menus and the synchronization packages, there is roles. This allows you to control what data is affected by the tasks that are performed. So here we have some of the standard super role, and then you've got some contact read-only roles. You can define these against particular users. We are now going to have a look at the Anveo pages. Anveo pages are really the heart of the system. This is where you as an administrator can take data from within NAV and publish it as a record in this table, defining what fields are available to that end user application. This is an administration task, not a development task. So we're going to very quickly have a look at the visit report page I showed you earlier. So here we have a list and a card. So these are the pages or UI we saw when we did the visit report. So if I just go quickly into one of these pages, let's take the visit report card. You can see the setup that denotes what the user gets when they're in the application. We give it a description. and we have an option here to show this in a main menu. You'll notice the card is not shown in a main menu, but if I go to the list card, this is in a main menu, and here I can define which menus are available for this to see appear in. So in our card, first of all, we can define whether this is published or not. This allows us to create new pages and have them in development mode only, so that as we're working on them, they're not seen in the application. Once we have selected what we're going to call our card, we can then define what we see in it. So in the elements section here below, we can see that we have published our custom table 50,010, the name being visit report, and we have published it as a mobile app card. We have capability of publishing the fields that we see here. As this is a card, we are seeing a general tab, because this card has a tab, and within the tab we have the concept of the fields. These are the fields from the table that we are publishing in the order that we want to publish them, and whether we want to publish them as read only or not. So here we're saying the visit report number is read only, because this is being set by a number series or being dragged from something that already appears on the card from the data that comes in, whereas the other fields such as the employee number are editable. By adding these fields to this page and publishing it, this then makes them available in the application. As you can see, in terms of developing for Anveo, or at least creating pages for data for your clients, it's quite a simple task, and anyone should be able to pick this up fairly easily. In terms of system requirements for the application, you obviously need an Anveo server or a device to host the Anveo server. It's a very small, lightweight piece of technology and can be run on the same server as somebody else. You also need to be running Dynamics NAV with web services enabled, and obviously those are running on Windows Server. In terms of support for earlier versions, anything from 3.6 upwards with the right executable upgrade is possible, which essentially means running NAV 2009 R2 web services as a minimum on your operating system. As mentioned, iOS and Android clients. Licensing models, just like to talk very briefly about licensing models. Licensing is performed either by the number of users that you have on the system or by the number of pages that you have on the system. Might seem a strange thing at first, but if you've got a lot of users doing the same thing, you may be better off licensing by pages. So if you had 50 or 60 people all using the same 2 or 3 pages in some shop-based or warehouse-based task, that would be better for you maybe. Unless, other than that, you may have just the odd couple of users who are doing lots of tasks, and that may be the best solution for you. In terms of costs, this screen shows you the base costs of the modules. So, in summary, Anveo, out of the box, a mobile sales, mobile service functionality, CRM features added in, does not as standard offer any warehousing functionality, but as you've seen with its development environment and the capability to create new functionality within NAV, there are possibilities for people who want to use this for multiple uses to develop their own features and functions. It has a middle tier server, so there's a requirement potentially for a lightweight server to hold that, unless you were to host it on the same server. It offers online and offline capability through a cached macro recording playback system. All your CMS management of your products and prices is within NAV. There is no web-based CMS like there are in some other products, and there is a NAV-based development and configuration toolkit which is very powerful and can allow you to create your own features and functionalities. At that stage, I'd just like to say thank you very much for watching this recording, and if you'd like to tune in, there'll be some more on other features and functionalities of other clients coming very shortly. Thank you.